This is Eric Law with Lilleys Resort and Marina. Just getting ready to do one cast today. Today is February 5th of 2026. It's a beautiful day today. It's a bit breezy and windy, so I'm gonna have to battle the wind constantly on here. So I'm just trying to get the trolling motor all set up here. See if I can spot lock real fast. Well, it's been a nice day today. Besides the wind, the wind's only supposed to get even crazier. All right. See if I can get this going. I just have this thing to where it's on constant. Just trying to combat the wind here. The water generation today was a bit heavy this morning. It's about noon right now. And so with that being said, this water is slowly getting less and less. So I might have to end up changing my tactics throughout. I think right now we still got a steady current. We just got a lot of really heavy water flow. But I've got a white jig on. It's about a 1/8 ounce. I don't think I want it this heavy, but with this much current at least kind of out in the open here, a little upstream, I'm just gonna see if I can maybe just bounce it off the bottom, see what happens. I've got a few other jigs I'm gonna try today. Just trying to keep the flow, but let's see. There's that little white jig for you, coming at you. If only there was 3D vision, you'd see that coming at you. But there's that white jig. We're just gonna see. It's gonna drop a little fast because, like I said, it's about 2 units of water. Generally, I don't like to drop something this heavy, but this just happened to be on this rod for right now. But if the water does slow up a little bit, I might try a mega worm under a float here in a little bit. But let's just see what happens. If I can. There's been some recent shad coming out of the dam as they've been running the generators. So anything white's been doing pretty good recently. So I figured we'll try this white. Get on the white jig train here and see what happens. It's actually a good time to be using it when there's a lot of shad coming through like that. Man, is it a good time to be using a white jig, because boy, the fish are just going at it. I've heard it's been still pretty strong recently with the fish doing all this, so I figured, well, we'll give her a shot and see what happens. Just gonna let this drift off the bottom a little bit. There we go. This wind's pretty nice. Let me go ahead and turn this camera for you guys so that way you can kind of see me on this side of the boat. That way if we get anything. I think I'm getting snagged. I felt like that was about to get snagged there, so I don't think I'm gonna get anything on this first cast, guys. The temperature today is pretty nice. It's supposed to get up to about the mid-50s, so that's not bad at all. Not bad at all. We'll take some mid-50s. I'm gonna try to move out of this boat's way here. Let's go ahead and get a little closer to these docks here. Beautiful. Some water runoff over there that's kind of all frozen. Be a good photo opportunity for sure. Let's see if I can throw this. Like I said, this white jig's a little heavier than I want it to be, but it just happened to be on this rod. And earlier I was getting ready to start my one cast until all of a sudden I realized I didn't have my fishing poles. So I had to run back over to the dock and I got snagged, guys. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to keep up with this. Oh gosh, come on now. Now let's do this. I forget, when you got 10 speed going on, it's pretty intense. We're slowly getting there.
You said B is good to go. Is the paint still wet in there? The people are checking in.
You guys are hearing my radio chatter from Lilley's Landing. I forgot I had my radio still on. I'm gonna turn that down for you. Come on, buddy. Let's see if we can save this white jig. If not, we'll just tie on another jig. But just trying to see if maybe, there we go. That just gives you an idea that got all sorts of people coming in right here. Like I said, I wish I didn't have such a heavy jig on. I might actually go ahead and tie this over to a different jig. All right, let's do this. We got a bunch of, I think the water's slowing down too from what I'm noticing. Oh yeah, it's slowing down. I can tell. So with that being said, guys, now that I'm noticing the water slowing down a little bit, I'm gonna try to actually drift my mega worm, probably under a float here. Let me do that, kind of get that out of the way. So right now I've got this yellow mega worm on. I'm gonna get it under a float here in just a second, but here's what this looks like. Nice little yellow mega worm today. But I can tell the water's definitely starting to slow down. Now it just seems like I've got the wind. But yeah, let me see if I can get a float here real quick. And we'll get that on. We're just gonna float down with this water real fast. Oh, where's my float? Here we are. Like I said, that white jig is just a little bit on the heavier side. I was hoping, well, maybe when I was up closer to Fall Creek, might have worked a little bit better because the current up there is a little bit faster. But now that I'm kind of down here, closer to Lilleys, it's, you know, I'm down below Trout Hollow and getting closer to Lilley's dock. I figured, well, we will try and see what happens here. I think I'm gonna try to set this mega worm I don't know. I haven't seen any top water, so I'm going to probably try to set this a little deep. Maybe go about 5 feet or so and just kind of see what happens. As long as you can set the right depth on these megaworms and you get the right color on, usually you can do pretty good. And I've got, at this point, I got a weighted indicator, weighted float, so I can kind of get it out in that wind as well. So I'm gonna try to turn this around here real quick. Maybe point us toward these wakes coming in. There we are. And honestly, I'm gonna try and just see what happens here. Throwing over toward these docks first. First thing would be to try to get that megaworm a little wet so it will actually sink. Oh, that wind's gonna be tough. Because that wind's gonna try to that's what's tough. I think the other guys, they could have done one cast today and they're like, I don't know if I want to deal with that wind today. It's only supposed to get stronger this afternoon. I saw it could potentially get up to 30-mile-per-hour gusts this afternoon. So, you know, if you're thinking about going fishing today, just know you're going to have a strong wind. But, you know, with the temperatures actually getting warmer, there's a benefit to that. You know, it looks like we're getting ready to have a warm front. We have a tournament this weekend. Got the raw tournament happening over at Lilley's Landing. And so it's supposed to be pretty nice. I believe it's going to be like around 60 degrees. Mid 60s, I think, coming up this weekend. And it's next week. Starting next week, it's supposed to be around 70 degrees. So that's real nice. All right. So with this wind, I'm going to point kind of where my float is. I don't know if you guys can see it out there, but it's kind of out in that spot. Like I said, I've got that megaworm sitting at about 5 to 6 feet deep under that float. And I know sometimes yellow's not really the color to go for. So it's just hard to say what's gonna happen here. Sometimes the peach color does really good. And then sometimes chartreuse green does really well. That's a word that if you're not ready to say it, it's gonna be a little difficult to say. The other day, I know Derek and I went out fishing, and it was kind of later in the evening, but there were so many top water fish. Boy, if you threw a megaworm on a float, you were just killing them. I mean, the fish were going nuts. But when it's a windy day like this, and like I said, they kind of, they're messing with the current a lot, so it's kind of going to cause the fish to be kind of interesting. The bite is always interesting when they mess with that stuff. So when they start messing with when they start heavy and then they start slowing it down, I mean, that can really cause the fish to kind of act a little bit more finicky. So that's one of those things where you just trying to, you know, situate what you want to use, because you were using something that maybe was perfect for the heavier flow of water. Then you got to switch your tactics up, and then you still have the residual water. Obviously you have the wind, so it can make it a little bit more challenging, as you know, you have to constantly change your bait and your weights, and it's not that bad. But then when on top of the wind, you know, blowing you, and you're having to keep up with that, it makes it just a little bit more work, I would say. A little bit more work to catch a fish, for sure. All right, we're gonna try to work by this bank here. Still doing pretty decent on time. So far, I haven't seen any bites on this yellow. Like I said, color is a big thing when it comes to fishing as well. I want to say that night that me and Derek were throwing mega worms, I tried a yellow. His peach was just destroying the fish. They were just biting one after the next. But me, I think I had only one bite, and of course I had to have missed it. Missed my one opportunity. I think I heard a fish. I don't know where from. I'm gonna throw over by this spot over here. You can kind of see where that cliffside kind of is. The wind is blowing downstream today. It's like anytime you were trying to go up toward the dam, it was a bit windy going up to Fall Creek. Like I said, I didn't even make it that far. I got to about Fall Creek earlier. And then that's when I decided, you know, coming out for one cast, well, I think I'm just gonna kind of go just below Trout Hollow and see what happens. And if I don't catch anything, it's not a big deal. Like I said, when they fluctuate the water, you really have to be locked in onto the right weight. Then of course you got to figure out what color to use. There's always something. You got to always try to calibrate and try different things. So that being said, I'm not really getting much on this megaworm. I haven't even seen one bite. And sometimes the megaworm bite can also be a little slow. I don't want, you know, that's one of those things. People just always have to remember it's fishing. It's not like fishing is quick. Fishing is a game of patience and takes time, and sometimes when you get that bite all of a sudden, you know, you got to be quick to react. You got to be very quick to react, because these fish, you know, if you've never fished trout before, they have a very light bite. They're really quick, especially the small ones. Got to have a good sensitive rod for that stuff, so good to always have good light fishing line, light rod, and you got to be ready. I mean, they'll sneak up and get those attacks when you least expect it. You know, it's that quick moment of when you look away that you miss something. That's the one thing I always happen to notice with fishing, is that quick moment when you're looking away. That you miss it. But like I said, I haven't had one single bite yet on this mega worm. Oh, I'm tempted to just maybe try switching to a lighter jig. I mean, I'm getting further and further. Oh man, you can see my float there, but this wind is making it tricky. I'm gonna try to get this out of the shot here. Sorry guys if you've been looking at a fishing pole the whole time. I'm not used to doing one cast enough that I sometimes miss those little details. It's like trying to just keep up with all the little things. The wind. The current. The camera. There's a lot of things to take knowledge of, but I'm gonna see if maybe up by this little ridge here, I'm gonna move the camera before we get too far. There's kind of this little cliffside over here. I'm gonna try to show you guys here. Move this camera a little bit. Kind of this little cliffside. I'm gonna just see if there's anything over here maybe worth trying. Like I said, it's tough when you're trying to do stuff in the wind, but like I said, you just have to be in the right spot and hopefully there's some fish, and you gotta have the right thing. This yellow just may not be the color. I'm gonna try one more pass by and just see, but I have not seen any sort of bites. This is just how you know, like this isn't, you know. You usually can tell pretty quickly if a bite is doing well. Oh, there's a crane. That was cool. Speaking of cranes, we had one at Lilley's Landing just kind of hanging out on the dock all day long. It was kind of weird. He'd fly away when you scared him, but then he'd come right back and just be hanging out looking for fish. But we'd never seen him just kind of walk around on the dock like that before. It's kind of really, really strange. All right. Well, I don't know, guys. I may have to call it a day. There wasn't much going on. Like I said, this wind is making it fun to cast in, but it's not terrible. Like I said, I've been in a lot stronger winds. This one is just, you got to manage your motor a little bit. There's a decent amount of boats out in the water. There wasn't a whole lot. I think we just saw what a few on this episode going upstream, so nothing too crazy there. And all right. My goodness gracious. What just happened here? So confused. This silly thing here just got all tangled. You gotta love how you just put your pole down just for a brief second and then everything just wants to wrap around. Probably because of the wind. This wind is just, you can hear it singing. Oh my gosh. I don't understand what happened here. This thing is just so dumb. There we go. I don't know what happened there. That's just bizarre. It's like it just did one little shift like that and then boom. And it just, I don't know. Kind of crazy. Trying to just keep track of my time here, guys. I'm trying to just, try to keep these videos a little short for you so you're not having to watch too much. And sorry there's not much fishing action going on. I just figured I was going to try to hurry and switch to a black jig. One of my go-tos that I really enjoy throwing. I'll show you here. Give me just a second. Just trying to tie this stuff on real quick, but also take off this mega worm. One of these days I'm going to catch one on a mega worm for you guys, but yeah, this just wasn't. Like I said, when they're fluctuating water like this, it really can mess up everything. Like I said, the water's not going like super slow. I'd say it seems like it's pretty close to 2 generators. Plus you got the wind on top of that blowing you downstream. So you're going somewhat fast. It's not like super fast, but it's somewhat there. Almost done here. All right, so this is the one this is my go-to. It's a black and red. I usually do pretty good on this one. It just seems to be my go-to jig. And honestly, I think I've got the right depth on this, or the right weight for what I'm throwing. So let's see what happens here when I throw this guy. All right. Let's just throw it over here. I said, on top of the fact of having to technicality with jig fishing, and the wind is always fun. Okay, try to get that a little closer to the bottom. Sorry for all the windy noise. Hopefully these microphones are doing all right for the wind. I'm gonna try throwing it kind of towards where you guys are looking. Sorry if I forget what this camera's like sometimes, because I forget that these GoPros have such wide angle lenses, so you guys can probably see a lot, but it's just always hard to tell like what you guys can actually see and what I'm seeing, obviously, with my own two eyes. But Lilley's is just on the other side right here, so. Really close to calling it a day. I feel like I could go probably a little bit heavier on weight. This seems like it might be a little too light. This might be a better weight for maybe a little bit slower waters than even this. Alright, well, like I said, this wind is always fun to try to have to sit here and navigate. You always got to keep the boat I don't think I've had any bites today, but that's all right. It's just tough, like I said, when they change the water, when they fluctuate the water, you have to be in the right spot. I'm just free floating and drifting, and like I said, fish are everywhere in this lake. It just happens to be you got to have the right color, be in the right spot, have the right weight, and like I said earlier, the water is slowly like getting slower and slower, so it's like having to constantly adjust to, you know, what they might want. I think this might be my last cast, guys, just to try to keep up on time framing here. Yeah, this is my last cast. If I don't get anything here, it's not a big deal. I'd like to try to get something, but like I said, it's just tough when all these factors hit you. Just always remember, when you're fishing, the more challenges you got to deal with, the tougher it gets. I'd like to get something, but hard to tell if I'm going to get anything. The last cast is probably going to be just as hard as the first cast, you know. One cast, whether it's your first or your last, always going to be tough to get a fish. And I think this is going to call it a day for me, guys. Like I said, it's always the factor of trying to figure out everything, but I think we're going to call it a day, and thank you all so much for being with me today. And hopefully, if you come by or any other time, wish you the best of luck always on fishing, and hopefully you'll catch a big one out there. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.